Welcome to another episode. He's back again. I've always heard the term "it's an emergency podcast" whenever I listen to a show, and I've always been like, "What's an emergency podcast?" This is an emergency podcast because something happened to you, and it's miraculous. I mean, it's unexplainable. I mean, can you explain it?
Well, not yet. I've been. I've got to go to a top specialist now because the opticians haven't got a clue. They've never seen anything like it ever. It's absolutely bizarre, to be honest. They've
So
never ever seen
I
anything
never,
like it.
I never even thought that. Like, I never even bothered to ask. I didn't know you had an issue with your eyes. I mean, we were just chatting about bog iron sights for people his first episode, and
No.
then what? So what exactly happened? Can you walk me through? Like, when did it start seeing like it coming back? When did?
Well, it happened when I was 11. I was a child, and a firework was thrown, and it blew up in my eye, and
Oh,
that caused that caused a huge blood clot behind my eye, which they couldn't move. But because of the blood clot and the pressure, they had to put a net behind my eye so my eye wouldn't collapse. So I wouldn't need a glass eye or a patch.
now,
And
when you were 11 and that firework exploded in your eye, now did you immediately lose sight? Did you not have anything
yeah,
there? Okay.
that was it. That was it. I lost sight then. And
Okay.
the operations I had in the 18 months after that were to save my eye, not the sight, but to save my eye from collapsing.
And did they tell you right off the back that you weren't going to have any vision in that eye ever again?
Yeah, and that was a top optician, a surgeon called Mr. Pierce. Even then, I remember his name. He was a top guy. But I've been told since I've never, because every time I go for an eye test, for my good eye, I say, any chance of getting that away, with lasers and that, and they just go, no, you can't do it
When
because
did
of a net we have.
yeah,
Sorry.
when did you accept that? Like, because that has to be like that probably took a long time for you to accept that you're never going to see out of that eye again.
Well, when you're young like that, you don't realize you just seem to you just get on with it. You've got to, but it is people don't realize because it looks quite normal. You don't realize, but the likes of if I throw a tennis ball basically in the air and try and hit it with a tennis racket, the chances where I wouldn't get it because you need two eyes to
Depth
the
perception.
light. Yeah. Well, now I can do it perfectly every single time. Bump, bump.
Is that what you did when you discovered
Yeah.
it? Well,
And then
you
and then
told me.
I've been walking around everywhere with my hand over my good eye.
Yeah. Okay. So for people listening, I had reached out to you telling you your episode was going to go up. You're like, cool. I'll share it when it comes up. Thanks. And then I went to message you back about like information I needed for the episode, and I never heard anything. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just have to post like, what I know about you, what's on your bio and things that I can find. And then next thing I know, you send me this message, crazy things have happened. I've got my site back and I'm like, what? And then like you should send me an article that you were published in. And then now if you want to show up the newspaper to the viewers out there that are, listening and stuff like that, you were in an article in a newspaper now too. And you got your vision back after 50 years where I'm
Yeah.
like, how does that even, did you get a headache or something and you woke
No,
up and your
nothing.
eye came back?
Absolutely nothing. It started to come back when I was talking to you last time, right? On that Monday,
Well, I'm
right? When I
not
was talking,
Jesus, so
I know but coincidental, obviously. But did you notice I was moving my head around and a bit?
I thought you were
Well,
trying to look at me with your good
I
eye
was,
or something.
yeah, I was also catching light that I'd never. I thought that's strange, and so but I was trying to concentrate on the two things. I'm like that was. And that's why I was moving my head a little bit and then by the Wednesday morning, Tuesday night, to be honest, I could see. I never even, I thought I was imagining it. Went to bed Tuesday night, woke up Wednesday morning, and I thought I was in the back bedroom where the sun comes up because it was so light. And I thought, this is odd. And then put my hand over my good eye and could see. Not when I say see, I'd need glasses yet, but they said let it settle a little bit. And I need glasses, but I can walk around, drive my car. Which
When
before that, I couldn't say anything.
when
Nothing at all.
do you have kids?
Yeah, I've got two lads and a little girl. Well, a young lady girl. She's about 24. I can still keep calling me little girl, but she's 25.
What was their reaction to you saying that you have sight in that eye now?
Yeah, it's just amazing, just unbelievable. They were saying, "You sure?" I said, "Yeah," because they were that used to me. Like if I was sitting here like you and and my daughter would come up to the right of me, I wouldn't see her because I've got, you know, if you put your hand over your right eye, you can't see anything past there. I wouldn't see it, but I can see it now. I see everything.
See, now you get to discover the tactics they use their whole life to get past you by just hiding in your
Absolutely.
blind part. And now
Yeah.
now you see, you're like, I can see
Now
it.
I
Did
see
they
them.
test you at all? Did they be like, how many fingers am I holding up? Cover your eye or
Oh,
anything like that?
I've had all that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
All
crazy. Wait, so
that.
you couldn't drive with one eye. So that means now you can drive again.
No, you were allowed to drive with one eye in this country.
That's okay. I didn't know that. That scares. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
well, yeah, because that's all you have to do in this country to pass it for your eye test in the driving test is to um, distinguish a number plate from about 20, 30 yards. Well, I can do that with one eye, with just the one eye, you know.
Now,
Now it's
so you said during the podcast, your eyes, you started seeing light out of it. Now, was that like that even when you went to bed? Were you constantly seeing like light, or was it just little glimmers? And then Tuesday night, when you were like your vision came back, like what was that feeling as well too? Like what was the first thing you did? Tell me you didn't just go outside and hit a tennis ball. You did something
no,
like look
no,
at a
no,
sunset.
no, no. I went. I thought this is, you know, there's something strange here, you know. So I went to bed, got up in the morning, and I could see. So the first thing I've done was walk around the house and the garden and everywhere with me hand over the good eye, just you know. And I keep doing it now just to make sure I can still see, but I can.
Does it feel like a dream in a way that it's now came
Yeah.
back after? Because I couldn't imagine all those
No,
years without it.
it's not. It is like it's very odd. I'm giddy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's because I like to go fishing, and it's always been difficult to see me float or me fly like that. But now I'll be able to see it. It's not, I haven't got a problem.
Did you shout it to the rooftop? Like, what was the first thing you did? Like, who was the first person you told? Your family, obviously.
I didn't tell anyone at first because I didn't believe it. So the first person I told was my wife, and she just said, "You should." I said, "Yeah," and then I said, "I'm going to ring the optician up because I was a bit worried. I thought it's just the calm before the storm, you know, sudden, you know." So I thought, you see, that I've got a net behind my eye to keep my eye, like I said, and the clot, this huge blanket clot called, was between the net at the back of my eye and the back of my eye, like in a little cage. Do you understand? Well,
Yeah.
it's not there no more. And they had my records and the video records of my eye from 2 years ago, from 2019, and they compared them for me together. There's two opticians now, and they compared them to them and said, "What's happened here?" That on the 2019 video, it's just a blank screen, like behind you. That's it. On this one, it was just light again. And they said, what we can't understand, they said, is that it's as though the clot's disintegrated, which it can't do. And if it has disintegrated, where's it gone? Because it can't go anywhere.
What do you, what in your mind though? I'm not asking from what the scientists or what the medical people have thought it would be. What do you think it was?
I haven't got a clue. I'm not. I'm not a religious person. I
Neither
don't
am I.
believe in miracles. So what I'm hoping, something's caused it. Something's made it right. Something. So hopefully, if these top opticians, the doctors, find out what it is, it might help other people in the same situation. If they can't find out what it is, I can't. Well, if the professionals can't understand it, I certainly can't. And there's nothing. I don't feel No, I just don't know.
Do you think
I
that
don't know.
did you change anything of your daily routine the day that we
Nothing.
talked?
No, nothing. Absolutely nothing. I've had no bangs on the head. I've had no falls. I've had no medication.
That's the weirdest
Absolutely.
thing in the
It is
world.
the straight. Well, that's what the opticians even asked me if they could take a video through the machine of my eye, right, with the camp, because he said we'll never see this again, and asked me if they could do it, and took the video of the eye, and obviously they took the video of the 2019 records, and they said they've never seen anything like it. These are opticians, medical opticians, go to university.
That's yeah. My thought is like that feeling of not seeing out of that eye for so long and then getting it back. I mean, do you still have that fear in the back of your head that it could be just you blinking and then it won't work again?
Well, I keep putting my hand over my good eye just to make sure, but see you.
That's not. All right, how many fingers am I holding up out of your good eye? I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna change it.
Right, have me good eye. 2, 3, and 4 then. Now, do it again. 3, 2.
Two.
Not far off though.
Hey man, you got to train it back. It's been not
know,
used
well,
for 50 something years.
Well, this is what the optician said. I said, well, can I get glasses? I'll be able to see, prescription glasses. I'll be able to see normal. And he said, let's see if it settles down for a little bit. See what this top guy's got to say, and then go for that. But then I'll be able to see perfectly.
You can see 3D movies now because they need the red and the blue on each side.
Exactly. I've never ever seen one in my life. Believe it or not, I've never. Well, I used to fire air rifles, target shooting, and so you can't shoot with me right hand, which I'm right-handed, because you look down the sight with your right eye. So I couldn't do that. So I had to learn to shoot with my left hand, which I'm quite good at. But even after 50 years, right, because I had to go last night, I'm still better with my right hand, even after 50 years. So it just shows you that it's natural to be right-handed. You can do it with the left hand, but suddenly, as soon as I can see, I'm better.
Is there anything that you're planning on? I mean, well, before I even get to that question, I know you're not you told me way before we even decided to do a podcast and before we got down to actually recording that you are not a camera person. You're not any of this stuff. And next thing you know, I'm seeing an article written up about you. And I'm like, the man is so ecstatic. He doesn't even care. He's going to get right in front and tell everyone.
I don't care. It's amazing. It doesn't happen, does it? It doesn't happen to people never mind to yourself. Things like that.
I'm trying to think of like a possible, because there's a thing called they've done studies about people's brain tissue healing back after being around like positive energy or just being around good things. And I'm not religious at all, but there's been plenty of studies of people that began to walk again from just having like overall like where their nerves and their brain start firing off all just because they're releasing stress or something like that. I'm like, clots are just their blood that gets stuck somewhere, blood clots are just like, could that be like just from expressing yourself or just opening up or just doing something different that's able to release a little bit of stress that might have cleared it a little bit? I just can't explain any rational way. When you sent me that message, I was like, congratulate. Like, I didn't even know you were blind in one eye, but at the same time, that's insane how after 50 years, it just all came back.
51 years on November the 5th. Which is bonfire night over here. 51 years this November.
That's nuts. Like, do you have plans for anything that you plan on doing besides like, are you going to go on? You were on the newspaper down there as well too.
Yeah, I've got nearly a full page.
Now, when they were writing that up, what did you tell them that just you can't explain it?
What have they basically? Well, I said the best thing for you to do is to ring the opticians up. They'll tell you medically better than me. So they did.
And they can't explain it.
No, she said never seen it like it ever.
Are you doing more tests to be able? They want to run you through the ringer to see what it could possibly be.
I've got to go and see a top spec. I've got an appointment soon. this is just a copy letter to go and see a specialist in Liverpool. So until I go and see him, I don't know. The guy said, the optician said, if we never had the technology to looking behind your eye that we've got, like this would be down as a miracle because it can't be explained, and people would put it down as a miracle. But I don't believe. Yeah, I might be wrong, but I'm not a big believer in miracles. From I don't know. I haven't got the foggiest idea. I'm guessing.
If you're asking me that my podcast can restore sight, I'm gonna start charging people. Not just kidding.
That'd be a good idea. I know. It's all odd. It's not the only other thing to get. How can I explain
Well,
this?
were you seeing it before? Like, could you still see light out of it before we even chatted? Like that day, did it seem any different than the other days that have been in the past 50 something years in your body physically?
That was the first, when we were chatting, was the first time that I started getting flashes of light. And that's why I was a bit
before
like that.
or only during and after?
When I was talking to you.
Okay.
It started. That's why I was a bit, if you notice, because I was trying to concentrate on talking to you, and there's this thing happening in my eye that's never happened in 50 years. And I'm thinking,
Chris, you should have told me to shut up. Be like, I'm seeing stuff again. And I'm like, what's happening? I would have stopped. That would have been a miraculous moment.
But if I didn't have any medical records of my eye, and no one would believe you.
Yeah, that's what's like, you have proof to be able to show people like, no, I could not see before this. How did you explain it to them? Like when they were talking about, like when they asked you about your vision and stuff?
Well, they knew I was blind because of because of the videos he had of my eyes 2 years ago. But I've got medical records going right the way back I'm blind.
You didn't like when they asked like what I asked you about, like, was your day different than it was before? You didn't be like, well, I did this kid's I don't want people messaging me saying like, do you have healing powers? I'm like, no, don't put that on me. Okay.
No, because I haven't. I'm haven't got a clue why I can see, but it's good.
I wonder what that could possibly be. There has to be an expert. Like, did nothing hit? Because I've heard accounts of people getting hit in the head and then it coming back or something like that. So
I've had no hits on the head. I've had nothing.
You find out your wife punched you in the sleep. It's like just every night, just punches you once.
Possibly, yeah. Yeah. Or an elbow.
Now, do you have?
But there were some things when you're younger. Yeah. When I was about 17, I wanted to go in the British Army. Now I'm glad I couldn't get in now because there's been dodging bullets in Ireland with friends of mine who went in. But things like that, sometimes I had to cheat eye tests to get to work. But you can't cheat them anymore because you do it in a different way. Because years ago, they used to say, right, cover your right, cover your left eye. So I cover my left eye, right? So I'm blind as a coot. But if you just open slightly your hands, which you can't see me doing, you can see through you.
Yeah, now they got like a whole entire thing they put over your eye.
Completely different now. Yeah, you can't do it now. You just got to say and hold your hands up.
Is there anything that you have planned to do now that you can see out of that eye? Like this is the thing, was like even doing a podcast to be able to sit down for the hour. I'm so gracious that you decided to, because this has got to be an experience where like, I need to go make up for so much lost time of not having it.
There's so many things. It's my life nearly. See, where'd you start? I think it's good. It's the first time I'll be able to see through a good German pair of binoculars.
Good German pair.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I've got binoculars, right? I've got binoculars, right? But they're not the best. But $300 binoculars, but it's not worth getting the best when you can only see down one lens, is it?
Yeah.
You can't get the use of them. But now I might treat myself to a pair of German binoculars.
Is
Cost a bit more.
Are they planning to do rehab or anything? Like, is your vision in that eye weaker or stronger than the one in the other one?
It's when you say weaker or stronger, it's blurred, but all the lights there. I can see everything, but it's blurred, but nothing that a pair of glass, glasses wouldn't fix. But they won't. It's no. They said just leave it for a little bit, and then we'll eyesight you and we'll get you a pair of, proper pair of prescription glasses. So that's what I'm waiting for. But I know I'll be able to, because I can see it. When you've got all the light, it's the light is the main thing. If you put a patch on your eye and walk around for 6 hours, say, or half a day, 12 hours, notice how much light you get returned when you take your patch off. So if you can imagine what it was like after 50 years, I was like, Dad, what's going on? Put my hand over my good eye all the time, making sure I can see.
I'm curious to see, like, what was their not explanation of what happened or saying I don't know, but what was like, are they hopeful that it's going to be permanent or do they think it's going to go away?
It's gone. The blanket clot that you can see on the video, right, from 2 years ago, which has always been there up until this last week, has gone. And then they said, it's gone. I said, I don't know. I said, I can see. I said, well, you can, because the blanket clot behind your eye, it couldn't even be lasered because of the net behind it and all that. It couldn't be done, right? It's gone. And they said, all we can think is it's disintegrated, which they don't do. And if it has disintegrated, where's it gone? Why can't we? There must be bits of blood about with a huge clot. And there isn't any. It's just gone. Gone. As if it's like having he says to me, it's like having a tiger in a cage, looking away, looking back, and the tiger's gone.
You probably don't even necessarily want to dig into finding out the reason to it, because I mean, as much as
I'm bothered because it might be able to help others, and if I can do that, why not? But myself personally, as long as I can see, and I can't see any reason what touch wood that it won't do it, that I won't be able to see. I said the first thing I said is a permanent will be able to see. He said, well, there's nothing there to stop it being to do it. It's gone.
Are you getting
the problem is gone?
Are you getting questions or other people reaching out to you now that they've seen the newspaper article asking about like how this happened? Or
on social media, you know what I mean? But it's no good me saying, I don't know, so I'd be guessing. The opticians are guessing.
I sent my buddy your article and everything because he lives apparently really close to you. He's like right down the road or something like that. I messaged him. He's like, this guy's right down the road from me. His he follows you. He's the Amish Inquisition. His name's Phil. And I was like, yeah, it's insane. This guy got his eyesight back. I'm so happy for him, because I was literally, when you sent me that message, I don't know you too well.
No, of course.
I was happy for you. I was like, holy shit, like, congratulations, man. I couldn't imagine what it's like to have it finally restored after 50 something. That's not something that happens every single day. That is a very, very rare, and right now unexplainable thing. So I'm curious.
Not rare, unknown.
Yeah. Unknown. So I'm curious to see if more than just a newspaper article is going to be about you, if they're going to try and get like I mean, when you were doing the newspaper, were they asking like, what were they asking you?
He said, well, do you know why you can't see it? No. I said, all I can tell you is that on Sunday, I couldn't see a thing. And on Wednesday, I can see. And I've been like that for 50 years. I said, the best thing is to ask the opticians. So he said, don't you mind just asking about your medical? I said, not at all, no. So they did.
Tell them it was out of the blank podcast. Out of the blank podcast, healed my bit. No, I'm just kidding.
But you'd be the first ever podcast to interview someone whose eyesight's come back with no explanation.
I've had
Yeah, I bet there's none others.
I think with when you sent me that, I've had 3 guests. Like one guest found out he had diabetes through my show and actually lost weight and actually went blind for a month. Because during his video, he was like leaning back. He looked like he was about to pass out. But I've never met, like, just like how I didn't know you lost vision. It's my first time meeting you, so I don't know these things about you unless you
Well, I
told me
don't tell
before.
anyone about my vision.
Yeah,
There'd be neighbours who don't know, because when you're being blind in one eye for that long, you don't bother telling anyone.
it's just normal.
And it's normal. It's, well, 50 years. It's absolutely normal. So you don't even bother telling anybody. You just get on with it. But you tell some people when you can go, I can see.
How many of your friends have believed that you can see again and tested you on it?
All of them, because of the newspaper, and they know me. They know what type of person it was. It wouldn't even enter my brain to kid anyone. I don't believe in kidding anyone. What's the good of it? It just wastes everyone's time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It just wastes everyone's time. I'm just explaining what has happened since I spoke to you. It's bizarre.
And
The chances of you speaking to me that day and that happening are absolutely bizarre. Nothing strange in it, obviously coincidental, but a hell of a coincidence.
it's a good one too. It's going to make it easier for you to find iron bauxites a little bit better.
Yeah. It's I've been looking at some of my stones. I'm going to take some more photographs of some I haven't done. I've got some photographs. You see, I can't put a photograph out of a mound from the distance, because people will recognise it, and I know what they'll do.
They'll destroy it.
Do you understand what I mean? I've got to be quite careful, because people will just come along and rob them. I know I'm not robbing them. I'm taking what I can, right? Well, there's loads still left, loads of them, right? I've only properly dug into one, which was built. There's the houses there now a while ago, and that's when I found the silver and the gold.
You should if you end up getting on like another newspaper or someone else wants to write an article about you, you should try and bring that up just so they can see something, maybe learn something different. Maybe it might spark somebody's interest to write a whole different, like, I know you're interested into the how I got my vision back, but there's this over here that a lot of people aren't looking into because of the fear of this actually might, because that to me is like, that's a piece of history that might be misconstrued all because of the optics of how it looks if that's attached to our history, you know what I mean? And I'm like, that's very, very important. You can't hide all the blemishes. You have to let some of that stuff in to have an honest history.
Yeah, of course. Very, very. The hard to explain these artifacts I've got. A friend of mine said he was studying one a few years ago, and he said, "I don't believe in magic." He said, things you don't understand can be put down as magic because we don't understand them. It's not so much magic, And he said, they're magic. So, and I said, where? He said, you see things in them. I said, I don't know what you mean. Oh, you see things in them, all right. It's very, 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 very odd.
Now,
it's something that I wouldn't come on your show and talk about straight away, because people will go, crackpot. Next page, nut. Next page, but
I don't think that's a problem with you. That's just a problem with society. Society has standards, and if you don't match like a suit, you don't match all this type of stuff, and they don't really care to listen to you, which is kind of crazy. But I mean, I'm nuts, so I mean, whatever that means. But with some of your artifacts, now here's an idea. Some of the artifacts you have you ever tried Google searching some of these images and finding out what these mean or what these relics could possibly be? Some of them, like the Venetian woman who was found in a river, was a giant like statue. She had no eyes, but she had a headband covering her eyes. She had big boobs. She had a big ass. All these types of things that was like seen as like fertility. And they thought for so long that this idol was a blessing that you'd give to someone who was going through fertility issues, and it would help them conceive a baby. They later found out it was a child's doll. It was like a little action figure a kid would have. Have you looked up some of your relics and possibly seen if any of them have healing properties? I'm not saying that's it, but it's just a possibility of maybe after a while of holding on to these relics and working around them for so long that whatever magical powers or whatever they believed might have possibilities, maybe. I don't know. I'm not saying I don't believe in magic, but at the same time, I'm not going to rule that out as a miraculous thing happens. You kind of have to acknowledge all possibilities.
When you when you're studying things, right, be it what I've got or whatever, if you can't look them up, if they're unique and you found them and no one else has, you can look on every single website on earth forever. You're not going to find them, are you? I've looked. You wouldn't believe it. There's nothing. The only item I found on the whole internet, and I don't mean like in the last 6 months, I mean for years. Right? I've been to. We have libraries, public library, but we also have libraries you have to join. You know, really top of the range library. But, right? The only thing I ever found in an article, right, the item was, I don't know if I mentioned it last time, was the gun strop cauldron, which was found in a peat bog in Sweden, I think in the 90s, I think, or 80s, not long ago. And they haven't got a clue what it is. It's not Viking, but it was in Sweden. And now that has got very, very similar iconography than mine. Very similar. Very similar.
So if there's only one item, how many items have you found?
Well, in the outside there, I've got them all. I have them stacked in plastic boxes, and I've tried to sort them out. You see, because some are magnetic, so I get the
magnetic.
I've got magnetic stones. Oh,
dude, this is a plot line to a movie. They're going to be like, the man got his sight back, and then we checked in his garage, and he's got all these ancient artifacts that he's just stockpiling.
Yeah, and some of them are now the ones that are magnetic. I'm not sure if they're meteorites or not, but they're not magnetic enough to be me. I'm not sure, but they're carved, and they're heavier. Like they're heavier than they look. But if you found a meteorite 2,000 years ago, you'd say, "Oh, that's interesting," and you'd pick it up. Obviously, you know what I mean. Well, listen, the only stones you should find in my area, the sandstone. There's no other. The nearest limestone is the Lake District. The nearest granite is Yorkshire. We are on sandstone. Nothing else. Absolutely nothing else. So if you're in the middle of a field where there's never been any buildings, there's never been nothing, right? And you start finding pieces of limestone this big carved, and emerald, and what's it called? Icelandic spar, which is huge pieces of glass, which looks like glass, but when I took it to there's a guy up the road from us, and he blows glass. He's a glass blower, and it's like a small museum, you know. So I took it to him, and I said, "What do you make of that glass there?" He said, "That's not glass." He said, "That's not glass." He said, and there's little bits of something on the bottom of the glass. He said, "That there is growth." He said, "That's a crystal." He said, and I looked, and it's probably Arctic spar, they call it. It's a big, look like glass. And the most, I've got about 8 pieces of obsidian. Now, obsidian is the first thing that goes hard when a volcano goes off. So when it comes out, the first rock and everything that sets is obsidian. It's the hardest, it's the sharpest stone. No, I think it's sharper than diamond. Obsidian. They found an obsidian knife in Tutankhamun's tomb made of obsidian. Well, I've got loads here. I've taken this obsidian I took down to I forget his name, but he's the guy who valued the Sutton Hoe, the Staffordshire hoard, which was found not too long ago here. Anglo-Saxon stuff over in Staffordshire. He valued that, like absolutely top man. He's on the television quite a lot. Well, I met him down in at the museum that he works out of, and he took it away from me like that because he said it'll be hard glass, you know. I said, no, it isn't. I said, it isn't. So I took it down to him to show him, you know, and he went, that it is obsidian. I said, I know. He said, well, where was it? I said, there was 3 of them obsidian pieces, and they're all concentrated in different little places. And then I showed him some other stuff. And he said to me, he said, well, listen, off the record, you found something here. Just keep at it, but I can't help you. It's down to that. There's no finance. He said, my museum now, we haven't even got money to buy a stamp to put on a letter. He said, so to get finance, you know, to look at what you've got no chance at all. Plus it's pagan, you know. So he said, just plod on with it. And I did. And I said, soon I'll have, I don't know, but I'm plodding on with it. I'm not giving it. That's all I do. Well, I should have gone to Thailand a few years ago on holiday with me, with the wife and a couple of friends. And I said, no, I'm too busy here. Never went because of these.
It just scares me a little bit because everything with funding with older arts now, or just digging up the past, like paleontology, archaeology, all this, it's only going to keep getting worse because the era of people don't want to find out the other parts of history, because the deeper they go, the more they hate it. And then at the same time, everyone's obsessed with space now. So it's like everybody's either trying to get onto the moon or something. Then I'm like, yeah, but we barely have discovered what's here. I like space. It's cool. I'd rather look into the oceans. But we're missing a major factor that there's a lot of this earth that we have not discovered yet. There's secrets that it probably has to offer, but nobody's really spending the time that's funded. You're not funded. You're doing this all out of your own pocket.
Yeah. If I was funded, I'd be a lot more advanced where I am now, because I can go and get the stones. It's like, what's that? What's that? What's that? You know, but it's £70 per go, per item. You know, and I go, but one day someone will come along and go, can I move my laptop and just show you one of these things? Yeah. Like, now this one is, it takes 2 people to lift this. So that's why it's still where it is.
I'm hoping your internet holds while we move outside.
Yeah, well, it should do. Hang on. So, there's my canoe, Canadian style.
Got a long backyard.
Yeah, right. You see that? Can you see that there?
Yeah.
Right. All that now. It's only 2.5 foot big.
And then his computer. Oh, there we go.
You can't move it. But I can't really show you. You see it?
Holy shit, that's huge.
Right? Now that was at the tip, at the top.
What just happened was like when the Titanic saw the iceberg. I saw the tip and then you moved back a little bit and I saw the whole thing. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. Well, that's all carved. I found that in the middle of the field. Now the only thing, the way that gets in the middle of the field is someone's put it. Yeah, they don't go on their own.
That's crazy. So now I understand why like there's not a lot of funding, obviously, to be able to open up to these types of things, much like we talked about on the first episode with the history behind it too. Probably a lot of people don't want to learn about. But how is something like that even being hidden? Like that seems like that immediately when you showed me that, something inside of me just like sparked up of like, I want to go find more of this shit. So I'm like wondering why this isn't a giant push for a lot of people, whether they want to publish it or not. It's still cool to be able to find things of that sort and at least learn more about it, because it actually might help in some type of way.
Well, it's history that we should know about, but we don't know about it. I think the reason it's hidden, hard to see, is because the Celts didn't want anyone to find it, especially the Romans. They didn't want anyone to find it, so they've put it here. They put it in this area, all of it. It's where they've buried the dead, and they've hidden everything here, away from the Romans or anyone, because you couldn't come here unless you knew the river like the back of your hand. And them Celtic Druids they only lived. Anglesey is 32 miles now. Like then it's probably at least 10 of it. So there's 22, probably more.
Are with your newfound sight in your eye, are you looking forward to going back to looking through those field or those sites again and being able to actually see everything? Maybe you might find some more stuff you missed the first time.
And the artifacts. Because I'm just going to see them even better now. I've got what I'm going to do for the next few days. I'm getting a lot of them represent what they call legless warriors with helmets. And what a legless warrior with helmet is the head, side profile of the head of a warrior. And they've put these all around the mounds, which I presume as soldiers to help the warrior or whoever gets to wherever they're going. But that's my theory. But whatever they are, there's something on the Celtic, I think. They must be Celtic, unless there's a completely other race of people who we don't know about. And I don't know if that's going too far, but I think they've got something to do with these Picts from Scotland as well. I don't know why. They were odd people. And I think there's something to do with them. I don't know. But they're here. I've got a piece of bog iron there. Do you want me to just go and get a piece of bog iron for you?
Yeah, if you want.
2 seconds.
Yeah. And for the listeners, hopefully, if Chris is listening to this, I'm so happy you have your sight and that one eye back. That's awesome. It's crazy, but I didn't do it, obviously. So don't put that in my head. That's a big ego issue I'll have.
You see this? That's
holy crap. I'm thinking like a smaller thing. You got a giant like that. That looks like it goes in an aquarium.
This is a small one to some. There's strange things on it. Like, see this? When you look at it closely, you can see it's all made up of strange things. And the colour it's nearly brown if you can see the colour.
Yeah.
Right? That's quite a small piece. What they do, they smash that up to smaller pieces. Then they put it into a bloom furnace and just keep pulling it in with charcoal. So they put same amount of charcoal in, same amount of bog iron in, right? And from all that, they get a 40% iron bloom. It was their by far best way to produce iron. And the iron was of a much better quality than mined iron.
They were way more advanced than we thought.
Yeah. And they don't know anyone else but the Vikings. They've done this, but I don't know. I think other people have used it. Celts. But you see, they've found hardly anything Celtic. So they've found hardly next to nothing on the island, on the Anglesey, but the Celts, and that's where they lived.
I'm telling you that when you get these, if somebody contacts you about doing something like this, you just need to show them this little stuff too. Like, did you think about that when they were interviewing you for this, the eye thing?
No.
I know you're so happy right now, but I mean, this is the best time to show them like, hey, now that you're going to get some attention, you can put this on a bigger thing, because if you send an email before any of this happened, you're not going to get any response back. But now that people are coming to you for something,
Yeah, I know.
you can now add this in to be like, hey, there's this too. If you want to publish something about lost history or something like that, there's all this. And then that opens up this world. Next thing you know, you're getting documentaries written about you about how you did all this discovering. It's mostly going to be about the eye thing, but then they're going to go to this and they're going to find all that. And it's going to be crazy.
Yeah. I know it's quite exciting, to be honest. It's the way you find this. I don't think anyone in the country's found bog iron, except me. But there was the guy who does documentaries on BBC One Time Team. He went looking for it about 5 or 6 years ago on one of his shows. He went looking for it, but they were looking in the peat bogs in the moorlands. Never found any, and I couldn't understand that, because a Viking would never venture too far from his boat, his ship. You know, we used to carry him on the backs to get with them, so they're not going to go up a mountain. I can't anyway. They never found any bog iron. So when I found this stuff, I thought no one else has ever done this, and I put it on the internet. Anyone else? No one ever found bog iron in England, Britain. Well, the Vikings did.
Well, their type of thinking to check the mountains is where usually they find something, is like they always find an artifact in a mountain. That might be where they found one or two, but who's to say that more actually might be in the more obvious location, which you said a Viking never travels far from their boat. That's out of the blank thinking right there. Like, a lot of people think inside of a box or think in a very small perspective view. That was thinking on a grand scale. I would have never even thought of, yeah, Vikings don't travel that far from their boat. That means they're going to be more scattered around near the water or the river.
Exactly. What I do, and there's not enough people do it. What I do, just put yourself in their shoes. Just say, right, I'm them. It's that time, but this is what I've got. Right. I've done that. That's how I worked out that the Celts come here. If you put yourself in their shoes at that time, with a Roman legion or 2 Roman legions just over the straits, which is about half a mile wide, fast water, and you look at the map, right? There's nowhere else to go. You'd come here. But if you didn't know the topography of this area then, right, which you wouldn't know, you'd think, oh, well, why would they go there? It's too built up. It's that. Well, it wasn't then. Well, this area is so Liverpool, although it's the greatest seaport in the world, it's late compared to most of them. It didn't start, I think it was 1500s it started, because the River Mersey, the greatest river in the earth, was a bog. Because on the Goth map, there's a Roman road going across it, and when they done the docks, the latest docks they found the old Roman road coming out of the river. But it's got to be they drag the River Mersey of sand permanently to keep the sand down, because Liverpool Bay is just sand. That's all it is, sand. So the sand used to be land, most of it.
I'm wondering if it's like the lapis lazuli. It's pretty to look at, but it's not worth anything. But people consider it. People consider it like a heavy thing that you want to pay for because they like how it looks. And bog iron, what you just showed me, doesn't exactly look appealing to our eyes, so we don't consider it valuable. You know, that's how we base a lot of things. Is it shiny? Is it valuable because it looks pretty? Really, it might be a more useful tool, which is very, very why we look at it like, why aren't they looking into this? It's because nobody ever thought to use it for anything but the Vikings. They saw in the harsh, brash appearance of what it looked like, it had a useful tool to it. A lot of people saw something shiny and they say, I can make something out of that. Not, I see something covered in dirt, until we made diamonds
under the ground.
Yeah.
In a peat bog. Yeah, but it was a lot easier to find that and make iron bloom from that than it was to mine it. They went to Greenland, the Vikings. They mined bog iron I call it harvested because it comes back. So they harvested bog iron in Greenland, and now they think that they've gone to America, North America, and harvested it there. So that's how important it was. I think it was probably second to gold. They worshipped iron. That was it. Iron. You know, Thor. It's they worshipped iron, and they've gone. If they've gone to America and Greenland, right, they found this. There's only over what, you know what I mean? There were seafarers that knew exactly where this was. And they've come and they've, I think they've been here for about, they were here in 1066, and they didn't say anything about them going anywhere. So say they went, say they left in 1100, and from say they were here from 700, 789, 400 years.
But like we talked the first time, they don't just disappear.
No, they don't. They for some reason, if they come over in 700 or 800, I think in our history books, the first Viking landings was 790, I think, and that was Lindisfarne, where they raided Lindisfarne. But if you read other ones, there's Viking graffiti, ruins graffiti in Istanbul, where the Romans were at some type of meeting area, right? And there must have been Roman Viking people around them, you know. And this Viking has put ruins in runic script what it was, but I can't remember what it was. But apparently the Vikings there, they were bodyguards to some of the Romans. So if you're going back to the Romans, you know, to 2,000 years ago, right? And they said they only come here in 790. Well, they'd have to come past here to get there. So they must know. Do you understand? If they said that the first time the Vikings landed in this country, 790, Lindisfarne. Yes, there's Viking graffiti in Istanbul when the Romans were there, when it was Byzantine. Well, that's 2,000 years ago. So, and they'd have to come past here. They'd have to wave to come past here to get there. So, I don't know. It doesn't sound quite right, that, does it?
How are they explaining that, or are they just ignoring it?
Don't explain it, Denise. Like I've said to you, the worst thing that can happen is for the wrong information to go in a history book. Because as soon as that information is in that history book, well done. Liverpool Archaeology Society won't talk to me, because they said that all the pits, thousands of them, are marl pits. And I said, they're not. And he said, yes, they are, because it says in Lord Brundle's day-to-day diary from 1711. I said, no, I've read it a few times. I said, the reason he thought they were marl pits is because he went over to his cousins who lives in Cheshire, a bit away, and he had marl pits because there was a limestone seam going through where the marl pits were under the ground, because you need limestone to make marl. It's a chemical process. It's to do with the lime as well. So I said, so there's no lime here at all. I said, every single farmer in the area will tell you there's no marl, because there can't be marl because there's no lime. So how can there be marl pits? And he went, it doesn't matter. It's down. It's history, and that's it. And put the phone down. Because how many reasons these pits, right? Bomb craters. My dad lived here in the war. There wasn't one bomb, right? So not bomb craters. 2 clay pits for the clay to line the canal.
Yeah.
That was Cornish silk clay, right? So not them. And there's thousands of them, and some of them are that far from the canal, you wouldn't believe it. And so that's them. But when you tell them that the bog iron pits, because you found the bog iron in all of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go on, it's down now anyway, so that's it. What do you do? It's down. It's annoying. So how many times has that happened in history books around the world? I wonder.
You would think they would change it, but they're not gonna.
They won't change it because they'll. Do you know what? Most of these, not all of them, but a lot of these archaeologists and that who work for these museums and universities, it's all down to the status.
Yeah.
That's what it's all down to. And if they find, if something's down in a history book and suddenly it's found it's not to be true, that's what it's all about. Where in my situation, I don't care. Because even if I don't care, I just think it's a good idea to put down in history what we really are.
I agree with you on that too. But look,
they are a bog iron pits. That's what they are.
Eventually, we will win that fight. But the fight that we do have to celebrate is the fact that you have vision in your eye. That's nuts.
Good, isn't it?
Look, if you get down to the fact of why that happened, then we can get down to the fact of why the people are ignoring this so much.
Well, the only other thing that happened to me about myself, which I thought was very, very odd, and I had a slight, how can I say, strange feeling. I don't know how to explain it, but it's a feeling when that was told to me when I was 50, so 11 years ago. In this country, you go, if you want, you can go for this 50-year-old medical. And basically, you go into hospital, they put you there, there's about 5 or 6 nurses around you, because I was having a laugh, right, all around you, and then boom, you start testing you. It's a bit uncomfortable, but 15 minutes later, they basically know how you are. And the head nurse, the staff nurse went over and she said to me, she went, "It's good to see people of your age who have never smoked." And I went, "Pardon?" She says, "Your age, usually people smoke from, your age." I said, I've smoked like a trooper since I was about 14. I said, I only started smoking about 10 a day when I was 45. I said, "So there's something wrong there." She went, "Checked." And she went, "No, you've got lungs like someone who's never had a cigarette in their life." And that's just strange, isn't it?
You're fucking magic is
that's
what it is.
That's on record as well.
That's nuts.
Yeah, I know it is. Nuts. Because I went, like a trooper, love. Like a trooper, I've smoked and I have. I've got ciggies there, I'm down to have one. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
But on the record, because she checked again, she didn't know. She said, that's why I said it. She said to me, "It's good to see someone your age who's never smoked." And I went, wrong.
Bro,
don't know.
They need
there was a slight, the same thing with my eye. I don't know.
I think you might be an exception to the rules.
Well, why should I be? Just a perfectly ordinary person getting on with life like yourself. Why should I? Why? Never done any. I've never.
It comes to you when you don't want it. That's the thing. That's how life works. Is that you don't want to be that, but that's what ends up happening.
If it's for the good, it'd be good, but it'd have to be for the good. There's no good things happening just to one person, is there? But then again, that guy, the guy who looked at them stones, he said, "I don't understand it, but it's magic." He said, "It's not magic because it's just something that we don't understand." He said, "But then this thing," and this guy he's an educated guy, he's not a working class like myself. he's you can never look at them again.
Well, Chris, I appreciate you for giving me your time today. Before we wrap it up and everything too, I want to make sure you can say your links again, but also we're going to have you back on again. This was just like an emergency because of everything that had transpired. Yeah. But
I hope it's good for your cast, to the podcast and that, because it's interesting enough.
Everything's interesting in its own way. And that is definitely one that hits the books for sure, because that's an unknown, rare occurrence. Is something like that has ever really happened. And I mean, it's good talking to you again. Like I said, I want to have you back on when I can do a little bit of my own research, and also we could do more of a bog iron site type style podcast as well too. But seriously, man, thank you for coming back on. Especially, taking the time out of your day now that you have vision back in your eye and everything too. But where can people find your links? This is just your Twitter and your Pinterest, right?
Yeah, but the Pinterest shouldn't even be linked to me Twitter. I just listen, Rob. I've talked to you and done this all by myself on my computer, right? That's good for me. Believe me, that's good for me.
That's all you need. You don't need to be more advanced than that. People have their homes talk to them, and I'm like, no, thank you.
Well, I do, because I should be able to. I should link me Twitter and that to. Mind you, I've been asking my daughter to do it for the last 10 years, but they're busy, aren't they?
Well, look, I'll make sure I link everything in the description. Is there anything you want to let the people know out there before we end the podcast?
Yeah, I'll keep you and everyone informed on what goes on when I go and see this specialist eye guy and see what he says.
Well, thanks for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank. Stay tuned for another episode.